Hello and welcome to the Stacking Dinger Show, your home for all things MLB Best Ball. I'm your host, Matthew, aka Sheep, aka Dark Sheep. Find me on the internet at D4RKSH33P_. And yes, I had to put my Best Ball beard brethren on the cover here. You know, the Justin Steele last year spring training photo op and this year spring training photo op, and the joke I put out there is that's what being a best ball bro will do to you. You'll grow this beautiful scraggly beard, but not a scraggly beard man, just a mostly normal beard man. We have Billy Jones. He's back. We're doing pitcher round two. We're kind of rushing here because our third guest, Mr. Tuma, who has added Brendan Tuma, who has added a Clay Holmes truther. So I'm sure we'll get to that as we cover these last rounds of pitching. But we're gonna roll into it. No pleasantries. So let's do it. Picking up right where we left off. So we are at ADP 130. We got one pitcher here still hanging around in round 11 that we didn't cover last week, and then we'll be moving on. Again, if you haven't watched these episodes, we lay out what you're visually seeing here is, the player, the team, ADP, position rank, round that they're going in, a UD total score, which is taking the bat projections and converting it to underdog scoring, and what that would be over the course of the whole season, not necessarily the underdog contest season. And then there's a points per game start, innings projection in the bat, K minus BB, K per game, and then there's some Eno Saris stuff plus numbers there for the last 3 years. All right, Billy, we'll go first with you this week since this show since you missed the talking on the first episode of pitchers. Kadai Senga, seems like it's just mostly a question of health.
Yeah, so the Stuff Plus filter that I had was you had to pitch 10 innings in a year to get to have a number presented. And you can see in 2024, he did not meet the filter right there. I think he was a total of 5 innings last year. So, yes, someone who's a little bit of injury risk. I think him and McClanahan, interestingly, right back to back. But yeah, that's kind of like him in a nutshell. If I remember correctly, it was a shoulder injury, and not an elbow, which I always a little more nervous on. But yeah, there's not a ton there. I'm kind of staying away from him in general, just because I don't love pitchers with like high injury risk.
Yeah, I guess I'll also follow it up for either of you. Like, did we see enough in 2023 that we believe, let's say we have a whole healthy season? Is there any concern that the league is going to adjust to him a little bit? Some of the, the ghost fork ball or whatever it's called. Do we have concerns that maybe it's not as shiny and new that people are going to be able to adjust to what he's throwing?
By the process metrics that I look at, he was a fade entering last year, and I think he first went down in spring training. So it wasn't he barely even had a chance to, get a season going. And then I think there was delay. He pitched like 1 inning, or I think Billy said 5 innings or whatever it was before the playoffs. But in 2023, people really liked him by the end of the year. He finished with a 2.98 ERA. That's pretty shiny. He got just over 200 strikeouts. He had a 4 Sierra. That's a pretty big difference between his ERA and Sierra. It was only 1 season sample, so we have no idea if he's capable of overperforming in that metric year after year. But the walk rate was really high. It was funny. I did a piece last offseason about high walk rate guys and what that just does to their volatility. And Senga, Dylan Cease, and Blake Snell, I always group them together a little bit in my head because those were the 3 who shared the most characteristics. And they're almost kind of like you want to bet on them when they're cheap and kind of bet against them when they get too expensive in some ways. But yeah, I actually think this is just like a kind of a clean cut fade. The injury is just, even the quotes they're giving nowadays in spring training is just pretty cautious. I'm very nervous about that shoulder, and I'm also just nervous he's not as good as his surface level stats showed in 2023.
Okay. Well, surface level stats, Brendan, have no problem with Shane McClanahan. 3 years of 20 starts or more, ERA of 3. I don't know if you have the Sierra on that, but yeah, what do you think about him this year coming off of surgery, and what kind of beliefs do we have in the claim that he's going to get 160 innings, which I forget that it was him or his manager said.
Yeah, they've set like a goal for him in that regard, and his Tommy John surgery was, midway late through 2023. So he's had ample time to recover at this point. They've already named him the opening day starter. It seems like he is, like ready to go. There's not going to be issues in terms of, getting him back into action. And then from there, yeah, it'll be an innings question. The Rays are, always going to be annoying with pitch counts and 5 and dive sort of thing. You guys probably know more. I mean, definitely know more than me because I'm asking the question, but like, are people with the ballpark change, are people trying to like sneaky stack Rays sort of thing, shying away from their pitchers? Because I just still have the Blue Jays that year that they played in those minor league parks in my head. And I know that everyone is focused on the park factors. I also feel like there's this element of when you're big leaguers playing in these minor league parks with less seats and the crowd's like right on top of you and there's less foul territory. I think that just helps play off. That just helps offense play up. And so, yeah, I don't know. The park's another factor kind of working against him. Really love him. It just, I don't know if best ball is the best format for him.
I think it's pretty split. I think there are people out there trying to stack the Rays just for the park factor, and a few people avoiding the Rays pitchers. But I think more often than not, I think everybody has like one Rays pitcher that they like. I feel like, and that whether they think that they're just good value or, um, that they can be healthy like McClanahan. I don't think it's scaring people too much. I mean, last year a lot of these guys were just hanging around at the end like they are this year. I don't know that people are really downgrading him too much.
The thing with McClanahan that I don't know if I have a good perspective on is how are they going to get to that 160 or the 135 that's presented here? Are they going to try to do 4 innings for the crochet of last year and kind of like let slow bleed him throughout the entire season, keep him healthy? Or are they going to kind of do like what you'd think from like a younger pitcher is like 6-7 innings, normal starts, and then shut him down? So like if it's the shut him down risk, that's not great, but at least you're getting some big starts out of them. But if it's also this like lower volume starts, that's not great either because we need some big high strikeout volumes to get those ceilings. So someone who's like, I'm a little nervous in drafting just because of how he'll get played by the team.
Yeah, great point. Let's see. Seth Lugo is next. We're in round 12 now, ADP 135. Billy, he was one of the best values in terms of points scored, but he really, I don't think like super stood out from advance rate though. So, I think he's a good case to look at, just kind of prove how tough it is for like a pitcher, even a 20th round guy that gives early round value to really advance you at a clip like Jaron Duran did.
Yeah, I think one, I love Lugo as a pitcher, like a guy who just throws a bunch of junk and spins it up every different way possible. But it is interesting, like from a late round pitcher, he did everything you could hope that he could have been. 200 innings last year, have some decent games. I still think that like you said that he performed like an early round pitcher, and like I kind of question that he had 200 innings, 100 days. Like you'd hope that it's going to be more than a strikeout an inning for one of your early round pitchers just to get those stealing games. So I think that he was an absolute smash, but I think that this is probably where he's rightfully priced here and not further up for him smashing last year. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's too high. I think he should still be late just because, it's underlying stuff does not. All last season I was starting to stack against him in dailies because all the underlying stuff said, this is going to go south at some point. The regression's coming.
And his value here is largely on innings. Like he's the highest projected innings on this by a decent little clip on this screen. And that's what's really boosting him. And he hasn't done that historically. I mean, like he built up 140, 145 to 200. So like he's got some build up there, but like, I don't know, he was a reliever before that. So it could fall off and he's getting a little older. So I don't know.
I'm making the sheet for myself that has all the pitchers, throwing new pitches this spring. And I wanted to color code the pitches the same as Savant, just so like I would link in my head like the colors for him. And I was like, where am I going to get all those colors quickly? Oh, I'll go to Seth Lugo's page. I literally did this like 10 minutes ago. And he just has them all. It's nuts. So yeah, I don't have a lot else to add. I think I'm still not feeling super confident about the intersection of quality starts versus like strikeout upside. And so, based on the feedback and what I've heard from you guys is I would lean against this, but he's definitely like sturdy. It just feels like you can get what he provides, several rounds later.
And he's what we should be looking for in our 20th round. Like he's a great archetype to try to find someone who's going to lean into a bunch of volume and could, but that he's not at the current or at his current price. He's not a target.
Okay. Brendan, next up is Sandy Alcantara, sitting 99 in the few innings in the spring that we've seen already. He's never been an exciting strikeout guy. So, I mean, I guess he kind of matches these other guys in his area, but he's a guy who in previous years has got there on volume. Can we expect that out of him this year?
It feels like an eternity ago, but he was like the third or fourth starting pitcher like a couple off seasons ago in like underdog drafts. I think it was coming off a Cy Young year. Yeah. And again, this is another Tommy John guy. There was this kind of cluster of Tommy John guys who had it in mid to late 2023, similar to McClanahan. So they've just had ample time to recover at this point. It's not like they're trying to rush to get ready for the season. So I really like that for Sandy. I like the home park. Don't like the run support. Don't love the strikeout upside. I do believe that he will, have as more of a workload than, basically any other Tommy John pitcher coming back just because of who he's been in the past, the time off he's had. And he's been outspoken about, wanting to come back and have that workload. And the vibe I get around the Marlins is just like they're not going to say no to him. They have nobody else to like look towards as leaders or anything. So I think they are going to ride him more than you'd expect from a TJ returnee. So I like him, but again, that strikeout upside is, it's staring me in the face there with the red and the strikeout minus walk on.
Yeah, and he's like, I know he's throwing 99 now, but he's always thrown really hard. Like that's not something that's new into his profile, or so. I still think that he's not going to be racking up a ton of cases here.
Yeah, I just meant to say, that we see him back to what he was. We don't have that concern initially. There's no velocity concern.
I guess the question just from like a strategy standpoint then is like, I don't know how hard it's going to be to find that strikeout upside late and to find that strikeout upside with the ability to go deep in a game. So it almost feels like late you have to pick. Do I want strikeout upside, more 5 and dive types, or do I want the bulky quality start guy? And I guess however you answer that question maybe determines how you approach pitching in the beginning of the draft. But just like thinking out loud right now, it feels like the best formula would be to kind of take on that risk a little bit earlier in the draft and then kind of backfill with guys you think can get through the season, pitching the whole season and maybe deliver some volume?
Yeah, I guess I try to mix it up all throughout. I'm not really getting to Sandy at all. Actually, for whatever reason, this group, maybe up till Steele and Kikuchi, I'm not getting a ton of any of them. So maybe there's another position I'm targeting here and I don't realize it. Next up is Joe Ryan. Had some time missed from injury last year. Kind of I don't know if the book is out on him, Billy, but he's had some home run issues in games, the last couple of years. Are you getting there at all? Because he does have, of these guys, a decent strikeout upside when he's not giving up too many home runs.
Yeah, so I love Baseball Savant. And that something that stands out for me and Joe Ryan. So his ERA last year 3.6, expected ERA 2.87. That's kind of a pretty big delta in the right direction for me. So something that theoretically should be coming pulled down if he was to regress the way we'd expect it to. So I'm excited for him this year. He's a player I kind of been landing on almost accidentally too much, but at one point, but he, as you said, the strikeout to walk rate kind of stands out on this page. And with that, we can deal with some of his games where he gives up a couple home runs because he's got it in his bag potentially to do some produce a bunch of points in his individual outing. So player I'm definitely interested in. I was waiting on health, but it seems like he's coming into the season fully healthy at the moment.
Okay. Next up, Carlos Rodon, ADP 142 in the 12th round still. Brendan, should be pretty important to the Yankees this year.
Yeah, it's funny. He had such a disastrous 2023 that it felt like, more than anything, he would get like a dead cat bounce this year, and that would kind of sort itself out. I'm just looking at his profile now in my sheet here. The past couple of years, yeah, he's given up a lot of homers. The park's not going to help with that. The skills are pretty good though, and I remember I felt so silly for buying into him in 2023, and then we had a disastrous first year with the Yankees because he was talking openly about once he had that year with the Giants, he figured out a lot of health stuff, and I had kind of filed that away. I'm like, okay, like there's going to be a discount. I'm going in. Year was a disaster, but I still kind of have it. Like then he got through last year, and so I'm not holding the health against him too much. I just think he's one of these guys who it's kind of like a mini version of Snell. Like he'll look dominant some weeks and then he'll look terrible others, and I guess that's kind of what you want from a spike week perspective.
Yeah, and I mean that is in the last episode we did talk about that being a profile to be looking for, especially at this point.
I think, and I'm again, like I'm kind of, sometimes lean a little bit more like roto head-to-head categories type fantasy, and Rodon's scary in that format because if he's bad, like those ratios just, you can't recover from that. But if he's bad in best ball for, a few starts or even for a stretch, it just doesn't matter.
All right. One of our cover guys here, Billy, next is Justin Steele, friend of the fantasy community. So shout out, of course, go to him. I don't know. He seems to be kind of an enigma to me. He's always outperformed what I've expected out of him. Oh, you're muted.
First time that's happened. Hasn't happened in a while. But yeah, I was gonna say first with the whole new aesthetic. I'm not sure if that means we upgrade or downgrade him. Is he let himself go, or is he reached a different level of like a competitor that is not to be messed with?
I think he's a newer dad too, and so I understand.
Oh, there we go.
There's certain amount of your own upkeep that you give up in those early stages.
Yeah, for sure. But so from a pitching perspective, I think he's just the kind of guy who's always going to outperform the eye test, and that maybe outperform some of the underlying stats. He's kind of a soft tossing lefty, but he makes it work. Last year, he just didn't get a ton of volume, which ended up making him somewhat disappointing. Only 135 innings in total. So if he can work back and get up towards the 170, then he's a fine pick. But I think it's kind of uninspiring. As someone who, and especially if I've built a team around more like stable but up with a little bit more juice pitchers earlier, he's not kind of where I'm looking at in this range to have a couple meaningful starts throughout the season. So yeah, not someone I've been looking at.
Yeah, and the missed time was kind of, he fell down and hurt himself while fielding the ball early in the season. So it's not like I think we have to hold that against him going this year.
Totally agree.
All right, this landed well because you brought one more graphic along for this show, Brendan. You have Yusei Kikuchi. I guess we're at ADP 144, starting the 13th round now. We saw, I think you're going to talk about it here, but we saw a major change last year, and we saw the major improvement because of that.
Yeah, pitching's really interesting. Just, kind of trying to track like the story of guys. And, he started this fastball cutter guy, and that was it. Like you look like early on, like he was leading heavily on those two pitches in this chart. And then eventually, he has to get rid of, he changed the speed of his slider when he added a curveball more recently. And it seems like that's just kind of unlocked what he's done. So, it's so funny for me. There's this perception like, oh my God, he went to the Angels. They suck at development. He's going to be terrible now. And I think for like long term, like that's a concern of mine. And in general, like I really do believe like in the power of the organizations can have on player development, even major leaguers. And I think the best way I've had it explained to me is like Blake Snell goes to the Dodgers now. If he starts having a start or two where his form's off or something's not working, that they'll diagnose it quicker than, like another organization might. And I think like that's kind of where the edge comes with this stuff. But I had the chart for Kikuchi just to kind of highlight how he's continued to kind of like mix and match. And this chart doesn't show it, but he changed the speed of his slider to when he got rid of the cutter, he threw the slider harder, and that kind of replace the cutter. But then when he added in the curve, it just like made it all click together. So he's someone, if you look at like the past 3 years, like it's not going to be an inspiring pick, but he had like one of the best Sierras in the majors last year. And I really like him. I think for this format too, he does have that single start strikeout upside.
Yeah, I've always been a fan. Because it was like even when he was not throwing the same pitch mix, you still saw the top end. And then he came in, I think it was 2020, he came in with new velo on his fastball, and then it's a good call. He's been trying to improve and has been improving, so that's always a good sign that he can make adjustments, even if you want to attribute it to an organization or how much of it to him. All right, up next, Billy, Jack Flaherty back on the Tigers again this year. ADP 146. Kind of saw him struggle at the back end of the season and into the playoffs last year. Do you have fear that this one season of goodness out of an island there, out of a past few years of a lot of injuries and just poor performance, are you afraid of it, or do you want to embrace that?
Well, I definitely don't want to embrace it. I think that I also want to note that the him landing back at the Tigers is a really great landing spot. I mean, talk about park factors from an offense perspective, but from a pitching perspective, that's about as good as you're going to get. So I think that is significant for him. But he last year, as you said, he kind of faded, and then as he's a pitcher who I kind of have in my mind is older, but he really only is 29 and turned 30 this year, so should be totally fine. Someone who I'm kind of comfortable with taking at like when the value falls my direction, but I'm not like prioritizing him by any means.
The landing back in Detroit point is a really good one because that's where he's had his most success, and he kind of fades, it feels like, every year, and when he doesn't have his fastball velocity, he's just got nothing else. But Detroit's, I think, a little bit underrated in terms of some pitching stuff right now. I've read a lot about they do some things with biomechanics, and it seems like, you know, that helped him to start last year. So I really like that he's returning to that spot.
All right, Reynaldo Lopez next. Brendan, for you, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of him now that we saw the ramp up, the season of the ramp up back to starting. Again, like Rodon, he seems like, you know, with Fried gone, like they kind of need him to be to step up a bit again.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Lugo, where it was just, if you took him in the late rounds, it was kind of a huge win, but then you might question, okay, what did I win? And that this year, just, yeah, you're paying a much elevated price. It's funny, even just like the next game after this, it's just kind of funny to see him going after. And this range of pitching is just like really interesting. There's a lot of different directions you could go, and yeah, I'm not a huge Ronaldo guy personally. I love what the Braves do. I believe in him that he's like stretched out. I don't love the strikeout upside, and then I just think we're paying a little bit too much for last year.
Yeah. All right. Up next, Jared Jones, one of these young, hot guys in Pittsburgh. Billy, how much of our view of Paul Skeens is factoring into our view of Jared Jones? I had some, I think, I forget what he meant. He did miss some time, and I don't know that he came back and looked as good he did at the first few starts. How much are we putting on him, and how good is he actually?
I think he's really good. And his fastball's average 97 miles an hour. He's got a slider that's average at 89. So I mean, those two pitches alone, which do end up making up like 80% of what he throws in a game, is they're both awesome. I think what would be interesting to see if he can develop into being more of like having a little bit wider of an arsenal in some fashion, because those two, I mean, one of the problems is when you have only these two pitches, you can be somewhat predictable. So I'm interested to see where he develops, but he's the type of guy who I would be swinging for in these later rounds, over someone who's going to be a little bit less inspiring, just because when he hits, he's going to hit in awesome ways. I think he is built up a little bit too. Last year on the major league level, what was it, 120 innings? Almost all of it at the major league. So yeah, I think he's primed to give you 150, 160 innings and potentially be really good at sometimes.
He's one for me where when it was happening in April and May, it was loud, and I think I do think a lot of people have kind of forgotten how loud it was, and you could say, okay, well, it didn't last, but I look at it as that was his first year starting. He like you said, he only had two pitches, and he's been talking this spring. He's got a two-seamer now. We'll see, if that sticks or what that does, but he's working on additional pitches at least. And I just think like it could be a situation where my view of him last year was it started really loud because he was, airing it out and letting it rip every time. And there's probably some element of learning what to do in between your starts to be able to take that ball every fifth day and still have your best stuff. There were some starts I remember watching early. It was just clear he didn't have, the same velocity or shape to his pitches. And so, but again, like especially for, it kind of reminds me of like the Tyler Glasnow pick and whatever, grouping that was, where it surprised me to see someone like Jared Jones go after Seth Lugo, go after Reynaldo Lopez, because it feels like if all these guys hit their best outcome, that it's pretty obvious who the biggest win will be.
Yeah. Next, then Spencer Arrighetti, ADP 157, round 14. We're in now. He's projected for 141 innings here, Brendan, but that seems low given, what Houston kind of, I think needs out of him. I didn't know anything about him until he arrived last year. I don't know if he was as much a surprise to you out of nowhere or what.
The best article I read about him, it was blanking on the author's name, David, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, David Lorilla on Fangraphs. He does these, he just publishes these like interviews he does with players and written for him. And Arrighetti was really open about how he looks at like a bunch of analytical stuff, but it was less from the pitch modeling, I'm going to make my stuff elite side. And it was more from the, I'm going to figure out what these hitters' weaknesses are and just relentlessly attack them. And from there, he tried to expand his arsenal and really just try to, it seems like he understands a lot about the craft of pitching. So I think he's going to be someone who's going to be, health willing, like a member of this Houston rotation. He's going to be a major league pitcher for a while. And he had a great second half. And I like him. I don't like him as much as, a few of the names on this list, like Jared Jones and Joe Ryan and Yusei Kikuchi and Jack Flaherty. But he's definitely someone, I definitely want a little bit of exposure to.
Yeah, I was just looking. They have Roster Resource has him 4 behind Ronel Blanco, but I mean,
he's the 3, I think.
Yeah, and I mean that's what ADP agrees, and I think we agree here.
He's got like the perfect pitch plot. Nothing overlaps. They all do their own unique movement profile. This is my first time looking at it like that, but it's interesting that you said that he's got these very specifically designed pitches to do different things.
All right. I still laugh every time I think about this next guy winning Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil, who's seems like he's been around far too long to win Rookie of the Year, but he did. ADP 158. I don't know, Billy. Are you drafting any of him this year?
Not really, just because I'm kind of targeting the next 2 guys more. But I can understand why it makes sense. He's, in terms of strikeouts per innings, it's really pretty good. Last year's 170 on 150 innings. Young pitcher that could be ascending, and kind of only a 3-pitch mix. It says fastball, slider, changeup, but can make that work. And he's going to be needed to throw innings. So interesting in terms of that perspective. Now, a name I haven't really been getting to, partially because I like the 2 guys behind him, but I probably should reconsider that.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say he's such an outlier. He gives up so few hits and then he walks so many guys. So you can kind of take that one way or the other. You could say all he has to do is improve his walk rate, even just like a couple percentage points, get it to like still be double digits, but just not like 12.5 or whatever it was last year. And then you could say like, oh, that's the breakout. Or you could say if he allows a little bit more hits, has a little bit higher batting average balls in play, then the whole thing's going to come crashing down. So I have a bias against walk rates that get this high. It's so high that it's just not going to be for me. But he feels like someone who has a really wide range of outcomes.
Yeah, because to me this 146 innings seems low. One minor injury, and I think that's going to go up because he pitched more than that last year. All right, up next we have Robbie Ray, who is on about 40% of my teams at this point. I am taking the injury risk. I just think this is if he is back to even mediocre Robbie Ray, where we don't know what we're going to get out of him each start. I just think this is a great value that I'm just smashing. And he was back last year. He pitched. He did have a hamstring issue, which not great to come back and then have another injury right away. So there's a lot of risk, but pitching, great home park. I just think the risk is worth it for me.
I'll let Billy go because it seems like he said he's got a lot of Robbie Ray as well.
I mean, I think it's just very similar. It's just an upside play at this point, and we've seen with a fair amount of upside. So I guess that's kind of my mentality with this pick.
I like the point you made. We talked about that earlier this week about the difference between someone who hasn't fully returned and someone who did pitch last year, and that just makes a big difference.
Yeah. All right, Brendan. Next guy, Mackenzie Gore. I'll keep it simple. Does he have the final ace level? Can he get there?
Yeah, this again one where it's like if he was in a different organization, would he already be there? Maybe, and I don't know. I think that's a little bit unfair. Like the Nationals did do some great things. They've done well with him. Like he was like the number one pitching prospect. Then kind of like fell off and was like on the waivers and dynasty leagues I'm in, and ever since then he'll have these moments that are really really good, and then it's kind of similar to Jack Flaherty when he loses. Like if you look at his velocity chart throughout the year, he loses velocity at times. He makes it through the year, but when he's not throwing hard, it just like it really affects everything else. And so that's going to be the key for him is finding consistency. But like in terms of the way best ball scoring works, he is kind of ideal because he will have these games where it's like 6 innings, no runs, 10 strikeouts, and those are the ones that are going to make your lineup.
Yeah, I'm way over on him, so that's why I wanted to. I like to hear that you think that he is good because last year I was out. I was looking back at him. The walks and home runs were a problem in 2023, both. And then, the walks still were kind of an issue in 2024, but he seemed to have figured out the home run thing. And if you look, he had a 70% left on base and a 340 BABIP. So I think there's a little bit of luck potential there factoring in. That could be just a really bad Nationals defense too.
And I'm a big believer in like you listen to people that are smarter than yourself. And Lance Brosdowski came out with a video saying that he thinks Mackenzie Gore is one tweak away from being awesome. So I think he knows more about pitching than I do. So I'm going to lean into that take from him.
Yeah.
I'll just add one more thing about like the continued improvement too, because so often like in fantasy, like guys want, all right, who is the rook? Who's going to be the year 2 player who breaks out and then becomes a superstar for forever? Whereas like we were talking about Kikuchi, sometimes getting this 2, 3, 4 year sample of tinkering and making improvements. Anyways, Mackenzie Gore, his fastball, his slider, his curve, the past 3 years, he's increased the average velocity of each pitch. And that's.
And you see that in the Stuff Plus there. I mean, it goes up over the last couple of years, which is promising. Maybe he's got more juice in what he's throwing.
Okay, excellent. We are all in on Gore. Billy, Sean Manaea, is he draftable now with the oblique?
No.
I would wait till like the few days before opening day because he's gonna fall in ADP, obviously. Yeah. So I would wait a few days before opening day and just see where the reports are. And I don't. He's maybe in play super super late, like literally the week of opening day if the reports are good.
Yeah, that's totally my point. There's no reason to do it now. You can wait. And you want to do it in the last round if you're going to do it, and you can have a little bit of patience until we get some good news. But yeah, definitely not at this price that he listed at 162, because he's, as of recording right now, he's listed at 175. So it's falling and falling quickly.
Yeah, and I think the scariest thing to me is with the oblique, we know the physical throwing change he made last year to throw more across his body that got him the better results. Seems it's really easy to draw that line between those two things being related, and it's scary. Let's see. Okay, Brian Wu is next. Tuma. We love Seattle Mariners pitchers. He's the one that kind of didn't rise to the top last year of all those second year guys. Seems like he's maybe always one strong wind away from being injured again. But is there upside there to target still?
It's funny. Across, like, I play in, several different leagues. I draft, as many baseball teams as I can. He's someone I just never seem to land on for some reason. I feel like maybe I've spent too much time on the other Seattle pitchers. I don't know enough about him. Feel like I have a good grasp on it, because it hasn't been like, oh, he's injured and he's out for a long absence. It'll be like, oh, he's got some elbow tightness. We're bracing for news. Oh, okay, he's fine. And that'll happen like 2 or 3 times throughout the year, it seems like. But yeah, I like him. Again, it's almost something like, not every, like, for me, I look at Kikuchi and I'm just like, last year his underlying stuff was way better, and that makes him a breakout bet. But sometimes I get stuck in the trap of needing to think that every breakout pick has the breakout hidden in the underlying metrics, and some guys people just make the jump, and he's someone who I could see, like, yeah, this time next year just being way higher, because it's a great park. It's a great organization for pitching. And, he's a talented guy. So it could all come together.
Yeah. All right. We are in round 15 as of Brian Wu. The next guy is in round 15 also, Taj Bradley, ADP 171. This is, I guess he's the 54th pitcher off the board. Billy, you look at the right side of this, and he is a kind of a stuff plus darling that has not really put the results to match together.
Yeah, I thought had a very interesting point that pitching in a dome is like this like perfect environment, and it's controlled and things aren't happening, and it's this stuff where stuff really plays up. And so you can see like a lot of it, whether it's organizational or the park, but Tampa pitchers have had great stuff, and you could see a potential downgrade. I'm wondering if that's going to potentially come for him, but with Taj Bradley, still only 23 years old, and a guy who I feel like has been on the verge of, or a target as a breakout for a couple years, or it definitely was last year. And someone who I'm like just a little nervous to draft in general hasn't put up good ERA numbers, and the expected ERA is still is in line with what he had last year, which makes me concerned as well. Does seem to be able to limit barrels and hard hits, which is nice. Or am I reading this incorrectly? He does not limit barrels and hard hits, which would be problematic if there's reducing the making the field smaller, so, and easier to hit at. So yeah, just a pitcher I haven't been getting to.
Yeah, me neither. I think he is a lesson for me in stuff not being everything, and maybe there is still a next level. Like you look at the oopsie ERA projection, and it's a 3.68 compared to the over 4 for most of the other systems. So maybe there is another level there, and like you said, he's still young. Jose Barrios was a guy I liked last year, Brendan, but this year it just seems like the oatmeal has just sat out too long and gone cold.
Yeah, I wish these next 2 guys, I wish I had anything on them that was interesting. Like we talked last week about every guy, I try to bring some sort of different angle or approach to talking about them. That's not always in the same way. But like the oatmeal analogy, like these two guys are just, you're hoping for quality starts and durability, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that being for the audio only people there, that being Mitch Keller is the next guy after Berrios. Yeah, I think you summed it up excellent for both of those guys. Billy, next up, Brandon Pfaadt, someone who we've been targeting since last year as kind of across the board on the show. But he just doesn't seem to get the love or the results from actual baseball.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he had like a couple really bad outings that were warped what his ERA looked like last year. I have this chart which it kind of takes like underdog scoring, the game logs, and looks at their underdog scoring and how often they're hitting certain point thresholds. And Fott is he actually was able to hit a 60-point game last year, which I think is pretty noteworthy. And so guy who's like at this late in the draft is going to it says projected 157. I'm questioning that, feels low to me. And so yeah, a guy who I think is interesting, has a base in terms of volume, and then has a little bit of high upside as well. So on an individual start, so I like drafting him at this point. Comfy click to round out the back of a roster.
I love Brandon Pfaadt. He's probably my favorite pick in this range. I don't know, like you said, Billy, like listening to people who are smarter than us with the specifics of what the exact pitch is going to be and where he's going to throw it. I don't have that answer. I just know that there's enough in this arsenal and that there's enough stuff in the underlying metrics and there's enough people, smart people, like you said, talking about him and these possible different tweaks that he could make. And it reminds me of like Hunter Brown at this time last year, where it was like getting frustrating with Hunter Brown because he had some certain things we liked, but it wasn't all coming together. And then it did because of one thing. And he's young and he's durable. Yeah, he had 181 innings last year. So I don't know why that. My guess is like they're still factoring in like Jordan Montgomery and like maybe making Pfaadt the sixth starter or something in some way. But I agree. He had 181 last year. Like, so like it could go higher than that this year, conceivably, if he's in the rotation all year.
Yeah. And I mean, Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Jordan Montgomery, none of them have been the picture of reliability in innings this year or the last few years. So
I don't have he was like this in the minors too, because there was one off season I got like really, I was just like felt like hitting on the rookie of the year betting odds at like all the right angles. And it was like silly for, he obviously didn't win rookie of the year whenever this was 2 years ago, but I was so directionally accurate with the wager I placed. So I'll be wearing that badge of honor pretty proudly with him.
All right, Brendan, next, Nick Pivetta. Here he's listed at 174. I just looked it up. He is up to 170, and I think he might settle in this, Brian Wu, Mackenzie Gore range, I think, before it's all over, because he is now a Padre, kind of one of the better available spots for him to land in terms of finally having a pitcher's park to pitch in, which he hasn't had his whole career. But you go back far enough, and Nick Pivetta was not a guy. He was destined to be a long reliever. So I guess what has changed, and do we think he has the juice to pay this price?
I mean, going from Fenway to San Diego is as good of a park, change as you could realistically be making. And for someone for home issues like that could be it. Like, so I'm very in on Nick Pivetta. I've always been. I feel like he has that single star upside that we're looking for, compared to like Jose Berrios going a few pitchers before him. The one pullback is the past couple of years I've been extremely pro Nick Pivetta to very mixed results. But again, I'll reference that David Laurila Fangraph series where, he just prints these interviews. And I was recently reading one of Pavetta's, and it was the exact opposite of Arrigetti's, where Arrigetti's was all about, I want to find out what these what these hitters don't do well, and then I want to attack that. Pavetta's answers were just, I throw my stuff in the zone and that's who I am. And so, like, I don't think any tweaks or adjustments are coming from him. And he does have great stuff, but he's so it truly changed my perception of what his upside could be based off reading this piece, because it seems he's unwilling to adjust this, and he just wants to throw his best stuff in the zone, which he's a major league pitcher, like he does it very well. But I just still have that stick in the back of my mind. That being said, like the park change could be a real plus. So I really like him, but in years past I would have probably been over my skis about him, and now I'm not going that far with him.
Yeah, I think
he's someone. I was just gonna say he's someone who, if you had a little bit of foresight, you could have had great CLV on this. He was going on sometimes undrafted or 20th round. I've had some great shares of him. I love that he landed in San Diego, and I'm still kind of somewhat interested in him because of that. I mean, Fenway is the second best place to hit going to San Diego, which is the third worst. Like, it is monumental, but the good shares of him have moved on. At this point, it's not that expensive, but if it continues to move up, I'm going to only just be less and less interested, because I knew that I have some really cheap ones.
Yeah. I've already called it that, this is my biggest mistake so far in early drafting, was not getting any Nate Pivetta, just a name that fell out of my brain until he signed.
I'll just say that's what everyone's thought before the season for the past 7 years. He is even he had some, go back to 2018. There's fantasy breakout articles about Nick Pivetta when he was with the Phillies.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't go the Sean Newcomb route. He got the good outcome. Jesus Luzardo, now a Philly, traded from Miami. Brendan, not a good pitching park change, but good to go from a bad organization to a good one. I don't know. I've been in on Luzardo for the last few years, and it hasn't paid off, and I feel like I've fallen off this year because of that. Do you think that's a mistake?
I really trust the Phillies. I referenced the Tigers. They do a lot of biomechanical work within the player development. I read a lot of that stuff about the Phillies as well, and I think that they've been able to take some high stuff guys and kind of tame them a bit. They kind of remade Jeff Hoffman as a reliever. They took on Gregory Soto at one point and got him trying to throw more. So I kind of like what the Phillies do organizationally, and but Luzardo is rehabbing his back, this past offseason. And so this is one to me where I'm just kind of, what's the term, bookmarking him until kind of next year. And I could see this year having some good moments, some bad moments, but then he has another year within the organization. And then, he's a little bit more slept on entering next year. So I know I'm making a ton of assumptions with that, but my overall point is he's someone I'm kind of willing to let's see how this year goes. But, it's someone, once you get that second year within a team, maybe he's feeling a little more comfortable. Even if I'm not in right now, I'm willing to be in next year is kind of my point, trying to think a year ahead about it.
Yeah, I guess that's a little bit scary. You kind of want to be ahead of that more so than the year after it happens. But yeah, I get what you're saying, because that's the same mindset I'm having. It's just it feels weird because I have been wanting to be in on him the last few years. All right, Billy, another Phillies pitcher here, 187, round 16. The 60th pitcher off the board, well, as of a few days ago, Christopher Sanchez. When we were talking about the oatmeal of Barrios and Keller, I think we have a budding oatmeal star here.
Yeah, and I wish I could pull up the chart. I couldn't find it in the interim while we were talking, but there's I have this chart where it's like I plot strikeout rate strikeout rate and then ground ball rate. So it's your ability to get the ball on the ground or just make them not hit it at all. And I thought it was an interesting way to look at who pitchers are. And the pitchers that he kind of is around are like Framber Valdez and stuff like that. And I'm like, that is interesting to me because as a guy, and Logan Webb is going way earlier. And yeah, so it's like oatmeal that is like I don't know. I kind of like it. Like it's it's good volume. I think that he's going to suppress runs relatively well, and we want to shoot for those the strikeout guys, but the high inning guys are really nice too. So. Someone who's interesting to me in this late, who I'm really pretty comfortable with a lot of innings.
Yeah. All right. Let us move on. We are to the 60 plus, not quite round. Yes. There's a few other, I guess Zach Eflin snuck in here, but yeah, we are now at the by team portion of the, I was going to say event, but the show. It's a monumental event each week, when we're here talking about basketball. So maybe that is accurate and why my brain went there. But yeah, so we kind of have different groups of ADP, but we're just gonna kind of fly through the teams here. The one unsigned guy that has an ADP, Kyle Gibson, no thank you. And then we get to this group of Diamondbacks guys, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Jordan Montgomery, Ryan Nelson. I guess, Brendan, any of these guys that really stand out to you, or are they all kind of a pass?
Not so much from that. Again, we're talking so much about needing that strikeout upside. It's kind of like if you don't have that, there's only so, high you can go in terms of the value you're going to provide. I really like Zach Eflin as a pitcher. I understand like he might not get strikeouts, but I mean, he's definitely the best name I see on this list. Real deep sleeper. He's becoming a little bit of a popular sleeper in some high stakes fantasy stuff is my understanding, and that's Grant Holmes, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make an impact on Underdog.
Yeah. Last year I did through a couple shares at AJ Smith-Shawver, but it seems like he's not ready quite yet. And I was even probably 2 years early last year on him. Anyone on here, I guess, going on? The Braves and Orioles are on this list. Billy, anyone on here that shoots out to you?
No, I mean I think that there's with in this range, there's no reason to be drafting any relievers. So anyone that's a reliever, we'll just cross them off right now. We're gonna no conversation about them forward. But I think with some of these guys, I mean, like Charlie Morton's gross, of course, right? But from an innings perspective, he could get you there, right? It is interesting that like if you look at the Orioles, I'm not touting Charlie Morton. I'm just more saying that like from an opportunity perspective, someone has to pitch those innings, right? Like we have one solid guy for Grayson Rodriguez on the Orioles, and everyone else is sitting here. So I think that someone's going to get some wins this year, and someone's going to get some strikeouts and innings. So I don't know who it is. Am I confident it's anyone who I'm not just going to try to draft these guys, but I'm just more. That's a kind of interesting takeaway for me for a team that we think is so good. We're only drafting one pitcher.
Yeah, and even then, you talk about innings. We haven't seen the workhorse innings out of Grayson either, so there could be innings there. All right. Next up, we have Red Sox, Cubs, one lone Martin Perez White Sox here, and then some Reds. So I guess first off, as the Boston fan, Brendan, Tanner Houck, Walker Buehler, these are the guys that have a little bit of an ADP from the Red Sox. I guess how do you view that rotation at the back end there and any of the value they might have for Underdog?
Tanner Houck's ERA last year was 3.12, and I just like that alone, he got a ton of quality. He had 19 quality starts. That's, like a pretty high number. He pitched 178 innings. His walk rate was really good. He gets grounders at, near Christopher Sanchez clip. He didn't allow homers. I'm just kind of going through his profile right now. He maybe got a little lucky on homers, but you could say the same thing about Sanchez too. And so I love Tanner Houck. He is a ground ball. Like, he is, like, if you wanted to make a bold prediction sort of thing, like, I would say like Tanner Houck outperforms Logan Webb this year, because I think it's like you mentioned Webb with Sanchez, and I think those guys are all kind of similar. I'm really, really surprised by his ADP being so low. And I think the thing with the Red Sox, and I might be a little biased here, but I kind of trust the direction the organization's going, and they clearly made such a big leap with some pitching stuff in general last year. And I just kind of like something I'm always thinking about when organizations, kind of overhaul some of their systems is, well, what does year 2 look like? And, we were talking some NFL MLB crossovers before. Like, sometimes I think we get too carried away with year 1 of an offensive coordinator, where it's like, okay, now that they've had 2 off seasons to prepare, like, are they fully clicking in year 2? And so anyways, I really, really like Tanner Houck. I think he is just such a good value. And I thought that the moment I started doing my admin dingers. I don't have a lot of hope for the rest of the Red Sox guys. It's mainly Houck for me.
Okay. I guess, yeah, Giolito says he's going to be ready, but you're not interested in that.
Yeah, I just think like some of like Bueller, like I can see the vision for Bueller. I just think this isn't obviously like a fab league where I could like drop him if things don't go well. And so maybe that's not the right way to play it anyways, but I'm just too scared of that 0. I think it's a very different bet with someone like Houck, whereas I think Houck's gonna, be there all year long sort of thing.
Yeah.
Plus,
I guess the only last question is, what about, I think it's knee issues so far in the spring
for Cutter Crawford.
Let's Cutter Crawford.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, all good. Bayo's got a little bit of a shoulder thing. Crawford's got a knee thing.
That was it. Okay.
Giolito's got elbow injury. Bueller's got elbow injury. So like the rotation is a little bit shaky. But again, Houck's one, like I know he faded in the second half a little bit, and that might be what has people really spooked. But I think it's a credit that he finished the season at all. It was pretty clear, this was the first time taking on a big workload, and he tired out a bit in the second half. And in April and May, he was awesome. And you can say like, okay, well, what happened? But this year, like, he's going to be rested again. So I'm not worried about him being, the second half version of himself. And I think there's a chance that he can, keep the gains that he made last year, but do it for the full season this time. I don't know. That's one I'm really, really sticking my neck out for.
All right. You've convinced me. I'm going to have to add him to my late round rotation. I guess I kind of lost him in all the names. I guess for me, looking ahead here, Nick Lodolo is the guy that I'm getting to out of these guys. I mean, it makes sense. He has the highest ADP of 192, so I think I'm not alone in that. But I still believe in the upside that we've seen when he has been healthy, even though he's pitching in Cincinnati. Hopefully, I'm just hoping for a few good weeks out of him where he's healthy and he gets the strikeouts. Billy, you have anyone else on this list that you're targeting?
I was going to highlight Lodolo as well. I mean, it's a relatively small sample, 11 games versus 10, home versus away, but home he had a 6.1 ERA, away at a 3.5. So that is pretty significant. So if you can just run into a couple useful games at home, and then you have this really great away profile from him. And he was one of these, he was a guy who I was hoping was going to rise a bunch this draft cycle, because I read a couple articles about how he has potential breakout and in him, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to get on the right side of that, and he hasn't really. So I was way overweight early. I do want to make one little nugget. I had a ton of Cutter Crawford last year. It worked out decently well. I did see this one tweet though. I start laughing already. There was the strike zone, and it was like in quadrants in boxes, and it was all of it was blue except for the central middle, like middle, and it was like bright red. And the announcer was like, "Don't throw it here, dumbass." And I thought it was just the funniest thing of all time. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Okay. I'll ask the question. Brady Singer, we saw like a good-ish season out of him last year for KC. I can't go there though in Cincinnati, but
I think Hunter Green doing as well as he did last year, I think has kind of made people forget how scary. Since I guess maybe it's not as big of a deal in like best ball, but I hate Cincinnati pitchers. Just have a bias against it. Maybe that's unfair. Fenway's a tough pitch to place too. It just the Cincinnati, like the cheapness of some of the homers is if you get a couple guys on base and you're hoping, okay, it's been 5 2/3 and it's given up 1 run, and then all of a sudden it's a 3-run homer. It just feels like it ruins everything.
Yeah. All right. Let's get on to here. We have Cleveland Guardians, Colorado Rockies, Detroit Tigers, Houston Astros, Kansas City Royals, and Lone Reed Detmers there for the Angels at the end. I'll start with you, Billy. What names stand out to you here in this grouping?
I mean, Gavin Williams has been interesting, a guy who's been sitting at the back of the draft who I think has some interesting upside. Let's see. Also, yeah, Jackson Jobe is also interesting. I love the idea of him adding more pitches this year and really kind of just becoming a more mature pitcher. Yeah, those are the 2 names for me.
Man, I cannot. I've gone back and forth on Jackson Jobe. All the prospect guys, love him. They think he's going to make the rotation, and then I look at the numbers, and it doesn't look like he should be making this rotation this year. Brendan, I don't know which side do I need to fall on here.
I feel like I know Jobe's story really well, and it was 2023. He was coming back from some injuries, and he just went on this run in the second half that was insane. I have to pull up like some of the numbers, but he was not walking anyone. Like the strikeout numbers were so overpowering. Last year did not go as planned, but I just think it's one of those things that like progress isn't always linear. People really rave about the stuff. He was the number 3 pick in the draft. They rave about how many pitches he already has already. So yeah, I mean, it's a total home run swing. I just, don't expect Skeens. Everyone's going to be chasing Skeens for the next few years. It's not going to be that, and the innings will probably be more frustrating than ideal. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely got that home run upside. And then for the other name I'll highlight, it's not an endorsement. This is even less an endorsement than Billy's endorsement of Charlie Morton. But I'm just going to read, and this is only by like a few like percentage points. It's not crazy, but I'm going to read some pitchers that had a worse Sierra than Reed Detmers last year. Freddie Peralta, Garrett Cole, Bryce Miller, Hunter Green, Hunter Brown, Zach Gallen, Spencer Arrighetti, Sean Manaea, Mackenzie Gore. These are a lot of guys we already talked about. Obviously, that only matters so much when, you continually get pummeled. But yeah, I don't know. Reed Detmers is probably like my Kyle Pitts, and I'll just stop talking about him.
No, I have queued Reed Detmers in a lot of drafts, and then I don't ever necessarily always need 20th.
He kind of does have like the spike week upside, so I'd rather take him than like some of these other boring guys on the list. But
actually I should ask at 210 Ronel Blanco, I did mention him, an older guy that just had a decent season, a good stretch of a season, and then an overall decent season. I think he's interesting, but I'm not taking him. All right, let's see. I don't know why anybody would draft Clayton Kershaw. That just seems like
it would make me so happy for him to be on the champion, like the Dinger champion.
No, yeah, or like Josh Hader or Class.
Something dumb like that. Yeah.
All right, so we have Miami guys, we have Brewers guys,
It's a
we have
good list.
Twins, we got Mets, and we got Yankees. Yeah, I think there's of the slides we looked at so far in 60 plus, I have multiple targets here. I'll just start with Brandon Woodruff, a guy who I just am taking, and it's much riskier than the Robbie Ray bet, I think, because he hasn't got back pitching, or he did not pitch in games. It's a shoulder thing. We have we don't have like historical idea. And the few people that we do that came back from what he had just did not have it pretty much at all for the rest of their career. So I get it. I get why everybody's scared, but I'm just hoping. Brendan, let's jump to you. Clay Holmes truther. He's at 222 here, but even as of now, a few days ago, he is up to. Let me look. Yeah, he's up to 209 ADP. So I think with what we're seeing in spring, he's going to keep rising. But so I guess what's the case, and then how far up the board do you think is worth chasing?
He's going to keep rising. The interest in him is so high. Every, pitching analyst that writes about new pitchers is, using him as the cover boy for the photo. We put out a tweet from Underdog MLB account today. Just we added up the amount of pitches he's thrown this spring and his 2 starts so far, which ones are new, did really well traction. That just tells me again, people are, thirsty for him to do well. And I'm just in. I love the organization. I love, Billy, you mentioned people like Lance making comments about this week. I saw Lance video about Clay Holmes. It just really sold me. The pitches he's adding are the exact deficiencies. And I know it's spring trading, but he's just it just looks like it's playing really well. Even more so than whether or not he ends up working out this year. I just love what he represents, and he is such a he was a reliever last year. He was even borderline how good of a reliever he was, and it's just for how he represents how quickly pitchers can change their talent level, and that's just a lesson I don't ever want to forget. And yeah, again, I don't think that the best case outcome here is that he is getting Cy Young votes or anything like that, but I think he could be like Ronaldo Lopez or Seth Lugo. How valuable that is, it's a little bit up for debate, but I'm just gonna blindly ride it. And yeah, I think the price is only gonna rise. So maybe people already have him, and like Billy was talking about with Pivetta, and that's kind of your signal to chill out for now. But I'll be curious to see where it ends by opening day. Still have a month to go.
Yeah, it's all about the volume, I think, that he can get to you, and we're already seeing holes open up in the rotation that they might, even if they don't want to push him, they might have to. Is he Ronaldo Lopez or is he Jordan Hicks and he fades after a few good starts? I don't know. That remains to be seen, but.
This isn't that bold of a claim because Minaya and Montas have gotten hurt, and Senga might get hurt too. But I would kind of bet that he leads the Mets starting pitchers in F4 or something. That's kind of how I'm viewing him. I think he's with those guys hurt to start the year. I think he's their best pitcher.
I mean,
I really hope so. I got 31% of him today, so that would make me very happy.
Yeah. I'm also taking some Nestor Cortez. I'm excited to see what the Brewers pitching lab can do with him. I'm more concerned about his health than what he's going to do as a Brewer. I don't know. There's some some David Festa hype.
I like David Festa,
but I don't know how much he's gonna pitch. I don't know.
I've been referencing Sierra a lot, and I don't want it to come across like that's the only thing I look at. But I just think as a starting point, I just want to know the pitcher's ERA. I want to know the Sierra. Those are probably the first 2 things I'll look at just to try to paint the most generalized picture I can. And again, he had a phenomenal Sierra. Like it was even better than Reed Detmer. So, so there you go. But in all seriousness, I just think like, he was a pretty good prospect. He's already, kind of going that Bryce Miller, Hunter Brown route with adding other pitches. He's a little risky because, he's just the innings might be a question. And again, this isn't a situation like if you're playing like a 12 team, like Yahoo league, like just draft David Festa and drop him if he doesn't work out sort of thing. And so I think he's got a little bit of risk on that side in terms of fragility, but he's definitely one I would sprinkle in some shares of if doing a number of drafts.
Okay. Any of these Marlins guys that, I think Yuri Perez isn't going to be back right away, but, we've been, Edward Cabrera, Max Meyer, Yuri Perez, these guys have all had hype trains behind them at some point. Any interest in them for this? I don't. No. All right. Next slide. All right. We've got some Oakland Athletics pitchers. We've got some Phillies pitchers. They're not the Oakland Athletics. But okay. We have the Bubba Chandlers, and Yu Darvish is here for the Padres. There's a group of Giants pitchers here and Cardinals pitchers. I'll start. I think Bubba Chandler is the only one here that I've really taken any amount of, and so I'll open it up to you guys if you want to talk about Bubba Chandler or anyone else.
Yeah, I'm just looking over the name sheet. I'm surprised Severino's. I don't like Severino this year, but I'm just surprised he's not going higher. I think my fear again with Oakland is the same thing as Tampa I was talking about. I think again sometimes we just focus on the dimensions of the minor league park and not these other factors like how small the stadium feels. And I don't know. I just have my antenna raised after living through the Dunedin stuff with the Blue Jays in 2021. I think like the A's and Rays could play really offensively this year. Andrew Painter, I think, is a waste of a pick. I'll just add that. And same thing with, I know Quinn Matthews gets some prospect love. It's so tough because my buddy kept throwing it back. I was telling him, like, what are you drafting Skeens for? Like, we don't know when he's going to come up. He's a prospect. And he was throwing that back in my face all year. So I'm a little gun shy to say, fully fade the prospects. But what I will say is if all the pitching prospects, really the only two that I would consider for an underdog format, it's Bubba Chandler and it's Jackson Jobe.
Okay. I thought it was interesting that Bubba Chandler didn't have a projection. I mean, he just is not there on the bat.
It's even more scary. It's become even more scarier in recent days because after they signed Andrew Heaney, that did take up a spot that people were possibly looking at him for in terms of making the opening day roster, at least.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to make, because they still have Bailey Falter there too. I think he can push past those guys if necessary, and I guess I don't know. I'm just going off the hype on him. I don't really have a super big case myself as to why he is. I'm just going off the hype, to be honest.
I think of these little groupings, I could be most talked into basically like any of the Giants, honestly.
Okay, so
I think none of them are perfect, obviously, but I feel like they're better bets than most of the past few tables we've been looking at.
Interesting. So Jordan Hicks, I guess the bull case is we saw the good outings, and he's now a year after pushing up the workload. Maybe he's coming in stronger this year and ready for a whole season. Then you have the prospect guys and Harrison and Birdsong. I guess Harrison we saw a little more of, and then Verlander. I'm not drafting Justin Verlander, but I get it. So I guess who would you want the most out of that?
I think for me, it's Kyle Harrison. Again, just like a former prospect that might not have much in the underlying data, but just what I read, he's continuing to try different things and get better. And I just kind of want to monitor that progress and that progression. It's a great park. Yeah, again, we're picking. It's like slim pickings here, so you're trying to find that balance of someone who's not going to be a total zero, but still has like some reasonable season long upside. And I don't know, his name is out a little bit.
All right. Last slide. We have some Rays here. We have some Rangers, Blue Jays, and Nationals. Billy, some of these guys have a little bit better ADP than the 240, 230 range. Any of them that are in your mix?
Oh, let's see. Bowden Francis is a pitcher that's interesting to me. Had kind of came on in the later in the season, and I think you see some of his inning total kind of bearing out in that. But I think that he is slated to have kind of like full run as a starter. So he's been a guy I've been getting to and sprinkling in a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some, at least what I would consider to be like live pitchers, here too. I think Scherzer, I think, is a better bet than Verlander. I think, he's live. I really like Bowden Francis. The Rays guys, I personally don't like as much, but I'm surprised they're not going higher. I think Eovaldi's, very live to contribute, and then Kumar Rocker is kind of in that, Bubba Chandler, Jackson Jobe, Quinn Matthews range of, okay, he's a prospect. What can we reasonably expect? But he's had like the most fascinating prospect journey, but by the time he debuted last year, and it was really late in the season, the Rangers weren't good, so not a lot of people were paying attention. But the pitch metrics, people were getting really, really excited about it.
Yeah.
What about Alek Manoah? Do you think he's still got another shot?
No.
Come on, people. He should not have an ADP.
Is he even back this year? Like, I don't even. Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't even know. I haven't seen his name mentioned once in any news or game. So, yeah, you mentioned Eovaldi. He's the one I've got the most of here. Again, 198. I'm not setting the world on fire with this idea, but he's a guy that I'm pairing with. I mean, just because I'm targeting so much Strider and Woodruff, these guys that I don't know are going to start the year. When I get to this, I maybe this is wrong, but I just think the problem with Eovaldi is when he fades down the stretch. So, like, to balance a roster with some of these guys that I'm taking the risks on early, he just seems like a really good pairing on the other side of it for me. I do want to call out DJ Hers. He was a guy that I have been targeting early on, kind of fallen off a bit as they've kind of clogged up that roster, that rotation a little bit. But last year had some big strikeout games, just did not, he faded through the season, but he did get a decent workload. And I think he could be a guy that puts together weeks that you want to have.
Yeah, and one little note on Eovaldi. So on that chart where I break out underdog points, he was 24th in percentage of games where he had hit the 40-point mark. So he is hitting your lineup in a decent clip, which I think is we can kind of just assume that he's pretty meh, but he actually is pretty relevant to your team.
Yeah. All right. Anybody that doesn't have an ADP that we miss that maybe not so much you, Billy, because he might have an ADP if you've been taking him, but Brendan, any deep sleepers that we missed?
I missed blowing up. I always have for like my home league draft sort of thing, like a list of flyer pitchers to to just keep making bets on. I'm looking at the list right now. The only name that maybe kind of jumps off it is Ben Brown of the Cubs. It's just like a total home run upside pick, but there's a million questions with that. So, yeah, I think in general, like kind of the exercise of going through those late round pitchers is in some ways a reminder of how fragile they are. Where it's like there were guys, you know, in the middle rounds who we might not necessarily have loved, but we didn't view them as, you know, such underdogs to be able to have that full season breakout or even just have that like sort of spike week upside on any sort of consistent basis. So, yeah, I think it's really about like picking your spots at the end. Like the Eovaldi example, the fact that you can get him so late, that's why we're seeing this whole wave of late on pitching. I think like you can start your staff pretty late and then be like, okay, I'll anchor Eovaldi as SP6 or 7. And, yeah, then you're off and running. So I think it's okay to dabble in this late round pitching pool. You just got to be selective, and it can't be the mindset of like, I don't care if he gives me a 0. I'm pretty anti like risking zeros. It's probably not that bold to say, but definitely just the number one thing I'd be thinking about through any late round pick.
Yeah, if Evaldi, how is your last 2 picks is totally within play, and that's a ton of innings that you can rack up as 2 people that should be in the starting 5 the entire season. So, yeah, I totally agree with you.
I guess, Billy, we didn't like when we got to those rounds, we didn't love anyone like what I'd consider a 20th round pitcher. Most of the guys we liked, even in that group, were 18th or 19th round. Do you think? I guess there's 2 things. Do you think we're maybe not risking enough this year, and then, or do you think we've just become better at identifying the potential contributors to this format specifically?
I think that's a good question. To answer that, I wish I had a piece of data, which I don't have at my fingertips right now, but like how many pitchers are getting drafted per draft, I think it's gone up. If there's more adoption of 7 pitcher and 8 pitcher teams because we want to push it later, like then there's the raw number of them is going to be more, and then therefore the pitching pool, like it gets a little deeper down. So I think that we're seeing some of that bear out here. But I don't know. I feel last year like there was multiple guys throughout the season that were always available. Like, and while we see that those guys are kind of maybe an 18th or 19th round price tag, they're all kind of available. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, that we have more pitchers drafted this year than ever before.
Okay. All right. Well, we did it. We've talked through I'm sure we've missed some, but we've tried to talk through every relevant player the last 3 weeks in the Underdog player pool. Congratulations to us, and thank you everybody along the way that has jumped in and helped us do this. Easy and Spencer and Nez, and obviously you two. I don't know. I love doing this series of shows. It's a lot of work, but it's fun to do.
I think it's important to at least, think about each player at least once during the off season. Just kind of set your own mental expectations for them and just have that information locked and loaded going into a draft.
Yes. So after this week, we will start. We will continue the 2 episodes per week, but we will be covering a division per week based on looking through a little similar to what we're doing now, but we're looking on a team by team basis where we're looking for potential opportunities. We'll be talking about more of the spring news that comes out as we go, and maybe we find some hidden playing time gems as we do it. I don't know, but we're going to experiment with this year and see if it's something that we want to do. We find valuable going forward. We're going to have a bunch of more similar guests, but some new guests and some other fun guests. And that'll pretty much take us into the season. So that's the plan going forward. Did I miss anything, Billy, about what's coming ahead?
No, I think we're going to try to make those a little shorter. I think that we have a good variety of guests covering those, so that'll be fun. But if there are specific questions that you have, definitely drop them in the chat, because we do have a plan kind of now through the remainder of the season, but we can always answer something kind of ad hoc, either at the beginning or at the end of an episode. So don't think that there's not every minute is already spoken for the rest of the year. So definitely ask us your questions.
I'm glad that you think those are going to be shorter.
I have a hope. If we say it aloud, then it might happen.
We will see. Brendan, what do you have on the horizon between now and the start of the season that people can look out for?
Yeah, it's my Substack. I love writing. It's I feel like I live in like the age of video, and I'm a writer in the age of video. It's not the best spot to be, but yeah, I have my own Substack, brendantuma.substack.com. I just publish as often as I can, just whatever I find interesting in the moment. And then every other Friday, I have something come out on Baseball America. And we got like a month till opening day, like maybe exactly right now. So yeah, it's coming quickly.
Yes. Any best ball in Baseball America?
Sorry?
Is that fantasy baseball in Baseball America, or is it just like kind of baseball thoughts?
What I do for them, it's mostly just baseball, but I sometimes take in like a fantasy direction or player development direction, or but yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, we appreciate you originally helping kick us off with this show at the creation of it, and we appreciate anytime you find some time to come join us again. So thank you very much. So for Billy and Brendan and myself, we got a month left. Let's go fill some drafts.